Hello and welcome to podcast number 2. I'm Reggie. I am here again with Steve.
Hello.
It's been a while since the first one.
Yeah, it's been a couple of months?
April, I think.
March, okay, couple months.
March, April.
All right,
like
who's
that.
counting?
Yeah, who cares? Did some equipment upgrade.
Yeah,
That's
hey,
why it's a delay,
upgrades.
but upgrades are good.
Upgrades are always good,
Yes.
especially in the business we work in.
Yes. And since our live podcast, you got to go see one of your favorite, I would assume, superheroes.
Absolutely.
Man of Steel.
I did. It was epic. I seen it in IMAX 3D. It was good. I liked it. It was good.
So if you were to give it 2 thumbs up,
Yes, I'd give it 2 thumbs up. I know that's not being very coy. It's being fairly coy and descriptive. Like, I like it. I like it. No. Yeah, 2 thumbs up. Definitely go see it. And highly recommended. It's got some plot idiosyncrasies, I guess you could say, idiosyncrasies to it. But it's a good movie. For what it is, it's a really good movie.
cool.
If I had to rank it, it would definitely sit above Superman Returns. And above Superman 3 and Superman 4.
Well,
it's about Superman 2 material in terms of...
I was going to say anything should rank above Superman 4.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I'd almost put the Batman from the 60s shows in Adams West above Superman 4. No disrespect to Christopher Reeve, but...
No. Yeah. That's for another podcast.
Yes.
Today we're here to talk about
Batman.
Batman.
Bruce Wayne, the Cape
Batman.
Crusader.
I will find him with all of my hatred.
Now,
Batman.
while we're recording this podcast, Comic-Con is currently going on.
Yes.
And you had...
We should be there.
Yes, we should. But you had some interesting news that I did not know about.
Yeah. As of today, I guess they had a panel out there at Comic-Con, and they announced that Man of Steel 2, a.k.a. the next Superman movie for 2015, will be a Batman and Superman movie. Whether or not they're against each other, like a Batman versus Superman or World's Finest kind of thing, I'm not quite sure yet. They just had this nice little teaser picture, and they kind of said this is going to happen.
Scale of 1 to 10, they actually taught Christian Bale to playing Batman.
-5.
That's kind of what I thought. I think the fans would love it, but
they'd have to back up Bruce Wayne's actual fortune in a couple of U-Hauls to force Christian Bale to come back, I believe.
I mean, I think I think the fans would love it, but realistically, not going to happen.
See, I don't think it works though in that concept, because the Dark Knight trilogy that Snyder and all them, or not Zack Snyder, but what's his face?
Yeah,
Nolan. Yeah, Nolan put together. I like to look at it as its own pocket universe.
Right.
I mean, it's about as realistic as you could ever expect a superhero movie, period, to be.
Right.
Just the way it is.
I think Christopher Nolan's Batman kind of set the standard. I think it's also they're part of the reason why you get all of a sudden all this interest in rebooting all these superhero movies, whether they've been done already or not done. All these origin stories are now coming out. I mean, Spider-Man 4, amazing. Although Sony claims it's not a reboot, they're just redoing a different.
There's a different take of a different comic book story.
Right. Which, okay, that's fine. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there say it's a reboot.
Yeah. And we all know why, though. It's not because they're not doing it for the fans; they're doing it for the almighty dollar.
Right. And someone let it slip. I read, and granted, this is not talking about Batman, but they basically said they're going for the Killer 6 or whatever it is in the Spider-Man universe, where they're trying to build up to, where basically, I guess, the final movie with Spider-Man that they're working on is going to be against 4 or 5 or 6 different villains all at one time that he's currently been going after. And
yeah. Have you seen the movie stills for Jamie Foxx? Is that Electro dude?
Yes.
Looks kind of creepy.
Kind of creepy. See how well they do it.
Yeah, but back to the man at hand.
Right, Batman. Batman's had a long history.
1939.
Comics. Bob Kane.
Yeah. Used to work on Action Comics for Superman, actually, and then he kind of broke off and came up with Batman.
Right.
And that's how.
Now Batman over the 70-some plus years has had kind of different takes on him.
Yeah, he's 75 next year.
Kind of like Superman is this year.
Yeah, that's right.
There's been some ups and downs, but it's been
a roller coaster ride in terms of, depending on what your take of Batman is
and your views of Batman.
It's been there's a lot of up and down to it. I mean, there's there's the old serials back in the mid 40s that was done, kind of like you'd go see it and you'd see go to the movies and you'd see one of these little piece of a serial, much like you would have found in the 60s with the Adam West show, like, stay tuned, come back tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel.
Right.
But this was, I mean, you had that 66 Adam West Batman movie, and that's what most people think when they think early Batman movies. That's what they think of.
Right. And to me, I look at the series on TV and that one movie they did, which they did between the first and second season of Batman, that to me, I kind of my way of saying it's kind of cheese.
Well, it's what it was
corny.
In other ways, supposed to be.
Yeah, corny. They didn't take it. It wasn't a serious. Of course, that was time.
Dark.
Yeah, no, that was a time when the comics were also kind of restricted.
They were seriously handcuffed because of the Comics Authority
code, which really kind of.
I get it, because they were somebody got hotty toddy worrying about what children are reading, these horror comics like Tales from the Crypt and things of that nature, and these real serious, almost crime novella. Graphic novels. Essentially it's the original style graphic novels, and they were worried about kids becoming too violent reading those.
Right. And I don't think really Batman became Batman again until the 80s and then the early 90s, when you got the Frank Millers and then you got the Nightfall series of Batman. You got the stuff where Batman kind of had his heyday in the comics. I'm sure he's still doing well in the comics, but it's been years since I've followed him in the comics.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what's going on. I mean, last time I seriously followed Batman in the comics was probably about 95 through about 99. Yeah. And it's been a while.
Yeah. I really can't say the last time I actually read a Batman comic, quite frankly.
I've got about 125 of them sitting at home in a storage container, safely preserved. Doubt they'll be worth anything someday.
Locked away in a bat safe somewhere with a Batman combination.
Right, and Robin has them in his tights.
Whoa. Maybe that's something we should discuss for later. But I'm not so sure that's the correct thing to talk about.
Yes, the podcast code may come down on me.
The podcast code of America.
Yes.
The PCA is here to tell you that you cannot talk about what's in Robin's pants.
Yes. The first really serious movie, the first really serious movie or anything, TV or movie that really came out was Tim Burton's Batman in '89.
Yeah. And, I got a couple of little oddball tidbits about some of that. Let me just pull that up real quick. In fact, I just found this one out just probably 10 minutes before we started doing the show. Let's see here. The fact that Batman, the '89 Batman, owes all of its glory to Pee Wee Herman.
Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. From various interviews, it's clear that there are two camps fighting over how they wanted to do that '89 movie. One wanted a campy version, real silly, just like the old '60s show.
Uh-huh.
And the other one wanted to go darker. Obviously, Tim Burton wanting to go darker.
Right.
But the only reason that Tim Burton got a chance to do Batman is because he had so much success doing Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
So technically, there is a Pee-wee connection then.
There is a Pee-wee connection. So it's also kind of responsible for, I guess, Michael Keaton getting the role.
Yeah, because I remember. I mean, I was in high school when it was announced that Michael Keaton would be playing Batman / Bruce Wayne, and everyone's like, "Seriously, Beetlejuice? What the hell are they thinking?" I mean,
here's some of the people that they wanted to play it, and I'm not so sure that this would have been any better, quite frankly. Because can you imagine Bill Murray playing Bruce Wayne / Batman?
No.
Yeah, he was initially offered the role.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah,
I can't see. Even if Bill Murray would have taken the role seriously as Michael Keaton did and played it as serious as Michael Keaton, I don't think anyone would have bought his version of it.
No, I can't imagine anybody and this is not a knock on Bill Murray, because he's done some incredible work, especially later in his career, that's not this, crazy comedy stuff.
Right.
But you see Bill Murray in '89, there's only two or three roles you can think of. you're thinking Caddyshack, Ghostbusters, and Stripes.
Right.
You know, you're thinking the absolute hilarious version of Bill Murray, not some of the stuff that you see today. But yeah, and nobody's going to go see that. They're like, wait, Bill Murray's Batman?
Yeah, and so who's going to be playing the Joker? Chevy Chase. I mean, come on.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, and you say that, I could have seen Bill Murray being the Joker.
Yeah, but then again,
I could have seen that. Actually,
but
that would have been interesting.
But then again, I mean,
That's not a knock on Jack Nicholson, by the way.
No,
That's just saying.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why. I mean, Jack Nicholson got top billing in that movie over Michael Keaton. How often do you see where the villain gets top billing in the movie as far as the actor who's playing him over your hero?
Other than the first Superman movie.
Okay, 2 instances.
Okay, because they had
Well,
Gene Hackman was far more known than in Hollywood, and Christopher Reeve was.
Yeah, but wasn't Christopher Reeve like 3rd or 4th listed on that, actually?
Because
I
thought Marlon Brando.
I think it was what Marlon.
But still, yeah. I mean, it was still Gene Hackman, Marlon Brando,
Christopher Reeve, and then the rest of the ensemble.
He might have actually. I think, depending on which ones you've seen, he could have been 4th or 5th because they had so many big names playing the surrounding cast.
Right.
And that's kind of what they did with Batman too. I mean, Michael Keaton was a known commodity more than Chris Reeve was, but I mean, everybody knows who Jack Nicholson is. Everybody knew
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Shining. I mean, there's just
yeah.
And I think for the most part, more people probably knew who Kim Basinger was.
Right.
At that time,
because she was in a Bond movie, not an official Bond movie, but she was in Never Say
movie.
She wasn't in Never Say Never with Sean Connery, which that movie in itself, it's not necessarily a bad Bond movie, but that's beside the point.
That's also kind of interesting that we mentioned Kim Basinger because you know who she was married to, right?
The guy who can't seem to keep himself out of trouble with the paparazzi.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin,
right?
Also offered the role of Batman. Now that would have been interesting. Also, and now and technically, I think if they wanted to go and do an older Batman,
kind of like a Batman Beyond type. of thing?
A Batman Beyond thing where they wanted to kind of do that. I can see him doing this as a kind of a comeback role, but I also have my sources here say that Mel Gibson was offered the role as Batman for '89.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course, '89. I mean, Lethal Weapon 2 was coming out. So
yeah, I mean that man couldn't have done any wrong in '89. Not in the box office anyway.
Right. Yeah. When I went and saw that movie, I was a senior in high school. Saw the Batman.
I won't tell you how old I was.
Well, I'm not going to tell you any. I mean, if you know if I'm a senior in high school, you can guess how old I am. So
I was in 3rd grade.
Wow. Wow. Enjoy that nap after the cookies. I'm kidding.
It was good. I liked my cookies. They were yummy. I had some pie and some cookies and some punch. It was yummy.
Wow. Cartman joined us. Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, I saw that movie, and I was, even as a senior in high school, I was like a kid. I loved that movie. I mean, at the time, I was like, cool, a superhero movie that's not been taken, that's being done for the kids.
Yeah.
I loved it. I mean, I thought at that time that was the ultimate, other than the first 1 or 2 Superman movies, that was the ultimate superhero movie.
I mean,
at that time.
And there had been other superhero movies done, but they were so horribly done and so underfunded and so just cheesy.
Right. Well, Hollywood never took any of those movies seriously.
Well, no.
They treated them as B-class, as I say, movies that no name actors, very low budget. Yeah. Rarely did they come to theater.
Well, I mean, and I think Batman falls under the same category as the first Superman movie. First 2 Superman movies, they were the indie films. Essentially, they're indie films. Nobody wants to admit it, but they're independently financed. They weren't financed through big,
right?
Big studios.
Now, I'm sure Warner Brothers would like to claim that they were behind it, but
yeah, I mean, I'm sure Warner Brothers probably had more money invested in Batman than they did the first Superman movie, but that's just because I think they knew that it was. I think when they seen what they could do with it, I think they had to invest. They realized they were going to have to invest some money into it.
Right. Now, according to my notes, the original ending of the 1989 Batman movie, according to what I found, now I don't know how true this is. I'm assuming it's got to be somewhat accurate, but
I'll see if I can get a hold of.
Supposedly, the
Tim
Joker
Burton,
actually
ask him.
kills Vicky Vale,
That wouldn't surprise me.
but they didn't want to make Batman seem like he was vengeful,
Yeah.
because supposedly he goes after the Joker, which would be natural. So someone reworked the entire ending, really not telling Tim Burton, and Tim Burton wasn't really sure how to end the movie because when they rewrote it with the tower scene,
Yeah.
Gotham, City Tower, with that whole thing doing it that way, and it cost him extra $100,000 for that reworking of
Yeah.
the ending. But then again, as far as
People complain about stuff like that, but then you go and watch the movie and you realize, no, this was the right way to go.
well, then again, also if you also read the comics, I mean, Batman's not necessarily the nicest guy.
Oh no, he's a very brooding.
Right.
Ass.
If you really want to know what Batman really is, I mean, you wouldn't let your kids go to, if they really made Batman movies like they were doing in the comics, you wouldn't let anyone under 18 go see those movies because,
Well, no.
if you were a parent and you had kids who were like 12 and 13 going, "Ooh, I want to go see this," you wouldn't let them out of the house to go see it.
Well,
To a point.
yeah. I mean, any good Batman movie or any good Batman television series or anything of that nature really deserves at a minimum PG-13, a real strong PG-13.
Right.
Or if they were to do a TV series based on it, that would almost have to be
Now,
Showtime, HBO kind of material.
right. Now, Batman would make a great
not
drama
network.
series if they were to do it right and be willing to put the money into the series.
Yeah, that's the key word right there, money, because those shows like that require a lot of money to do.
Right. And how often would you actually see Bruce Wayne as Batman? Probably not until, one or two times in the show.
Well,
not
I mean,
that often.
Look what they did with Smallville. They did all the effects and never had him in the suit until
Yeah.
the very end of the series. And, you could see something like to that effect, but it's all about, the cost of sets and how much can you reuse certain sets to make them cost effective.
Right.
Luckily with Batman,
The Batcave, once you kind of got
once you get the Batcave figured out, once you got your sets for Wayne Manor,
the police, you obviously you're going to have some sort of, if you're going to have a Gordon, you got to have some sort of police station.
yeah, I mean,
and then the rest is just kind of whatever the episode
just
calls for.
just as long as they don't do it like the original Batman series, where you've seen the Batmobile pull up and you see the exact same shot in every episode.
Right.
You see the Batmobile pull up and you see the same three ladies like, oh my, Batman and Robin are here. Oh no, I wonder what's going on in the city.
Well, I mean,
And you're like, really?
I mean,
You couldn't even at least flipped it so it came in on the other side of the street just for once, just to say, hey, I know, let's make him come in from the other side.
well, then if you look at the Batman series on TV, I mean,
Watch it every Saturday
well, who
because I'm here.
well, who wouldn't be able to figure out Bruce Wayne and Burt Ward are not Batman and Robin, because I mean
Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson or Burt Ward. What the
Burt Ward is Dick Grayson.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I just
anyway,
don't be confused by the man behind the microphone, folks. He just got his names mixed up. He knows who he's talking about.
yeah.
And you should too. I don't know where I'm going with this.
But yeah, but but after the movie came out in '89, I mean, Michael Keaton really changed a lot of people's opinions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think they kind of solidified. I was watching Batman Returns the other day on, I think it was Sci-Fi, and I was just like, he was a pretty good Batman. He really was.
Now, see, I have a small problem with Batman Returns. Some people say it was too dark. The studio thought it was too dark. I didn't think it was really any dark.
I thought it was perfect.
I didn't think it was any darker than the first one, to be honest. I think it was just because of maybe the way they had the Penguin done, possibly. I don't know. But, my problem with Batman Returns is it seems like there wasn't enough Bruce Wayne trying to figure things out like he did in the first one. It's like every time you saw Batman, it was like all of a sudden he was showing up to save the day.
Yeah,
and that was one thing that kind of rubbed me wrong with that movie.
And that's become the problem with the Batman movies as a whole. Actually, kind of the majority of the series, the first four movies.
Right.
The first is that there was too much star power, and it's kind of like having too many stars on a football team and only one ball to pass around.
Right, because you get to Batman Forever. You got Jim Carrey. You've got
Tommy Lee Jones.
I mean, you got all these
Nicole
people.
Kidman.
Right. You get all these people in these movies, and you've got to try and give them equal time. So you focus more on the villains.
You've almost made Batman the sub-character.
Right. You focus more on the villains, and then, you see a little bit of Bruce Wayne, but every time you see Batman, it's basically, oop, here I am.
Yeah.
And really Bruce Wayne's really kind of more, and Batman's both one and the same, are really more kind of a detective in a certain sense.
Well, yeah, I mean that's one of his little monikers, the world's greatest detective.
Yeah.
I mean, you see, what is it? Ra's al Ghul. Sometimes we'll refer to him as a detective as opposed to any other moniker.
Which I think that's what the Nolan movies did best, as far as making Bruce Wayne out to, trying to figure things out with Alfred.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So he made him more realistic as far as trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I mean the serious realism with that trilogy is, I think without question, the most down to earth superhero movie you'll find in terms of its roots are as realistic as possible.
Grounded as can be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's grounded as you could possibly hope to make a superhero movie.
Right.
Period. I mean, there's the technology that he uses in the movies. Yeah, it's a little space age, but it's not out of the realm to believe that this could be done by anybody with enough money.
Right, it's still believable.
Yeah.
Unlike the bat plane in the first 4 movies.
Yeah.
That one was a little suspect.
Actually, I like the bat plane in the first one.
Well, because he goes up and does a little moon
shot.
Yeah,
that was actually really cool. I thought, hey, that's badass.
Yeah.
By the way, though, I don't care
now
what anybody says. The Batmobile from the '89 Batmobile is still the coolest one of the bunch.
As far as looks,
yeah, it's the meanest looking thing you'll ever see. And I know there's people like, oh, the Tumblers were better. No way, man.
Okay, the Tumbler might be better as far as sophistication and protecting the Batman, or maybe getting the job done. But cool factor.
I don't know, man.
The cool factor still has to go to the '89.
I don't know, man. You remember there's that scene where Batman's being chased through the streets and he just yells into his little microphones, and the whole car shields itself up, basically makes it impregnable.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think I have to go with the '89 one over cool factor and technology. I mean, add a couple of LCD high def screens into it, and it would still outshine anything.
Yeah. Now, Warner Brothers' problems with the first 4 movies is on the 3rd and 4th one.
Joel Schumacher.
Yes. I mean, they let that man direct the movies, and
carte blanche for somebody like him is a bad idea.
And he made no bones about that. He thought Batman should be done like the 60s.
Yeah.
And now he didn't get too crazy on Batman Forever, because Warner Brothers kind of said, okay, you can direct the movie. They let him lighten up to a point, but Warner Brothers still kept the reins on him and still wanted some of that darkness from the first 2.
You know what would have done him so much better? And him being Schumacher, is if somewhere, because if I remember right, if memory serves me right, didn't Schumacher work with Richard Donner in The Lost Boys?
I have no idea.
I believe so, off the top of my head, and if I'm wrong, folks, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure they worked together on that. And you need somebody who's a little more grounded when you do a movie like this.
Well, there was a thing saying that when they were shooting Batman and Robin, every time they get ready to shoot a scene, he basically tell everyone, remember everyone, this is just a toy.
Yeah,
it's not real. So what kind of and confidence do you instill in your actors to make them playing the characters as believable as possible when you got someone up there saying, yeah, this guy's just an idiot. This is not whatever, should be taken lightly. Who cares?
Yeah. So here's a couple of tidbits for you. Now and then we're going to fast forward to the last movie, and then we're going to come back to Batman Forever. Okay. So you've seen the last one, right?
Yes, I've seen Dark Knight Rises.
And they kind of made this allusion to the Robin character basically becoming the new Batman.
Okay.
Did you know that Christian Bale once auditioned for Robin for...
I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, he don't like to talk about it. He doesn't like to talk about it at all. But yeah, he auditioned to play Robin in Batman Forever. And
well, that if he would have gotten that role instead of his name eludes me. Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
You think he still would have gotten to play Batman?
I don't know. But, reading kind of through some of my notes here, let's just say that Tommy Lee Jones and Val Kilmer didn't really like each other on set. And Christian Bale being kind of a volatile person, as we've all seen him in the public life when things don't necessarily go his way.
Well, there's also that real public incident that happened
That's what I'm referring to.
Yes.
If he's kind of a volatile person, and can you imagine if he had gotten caught up between the issues between Kilmer and Tommy Lee Jones? that could have been bad.
Robin would have gotten to kill Two-Face like he wanted to.
That's right. Well, maybe not. Maybe he would have killed Batman. He could have gone Red Hood and I'm killing everybody. I don't care.
So
you're cool though. You're cool, but I hate you all.
So how would you rate the first 4 movies in order of how you liked them? First one, from best to worst.
I would say 1 and 2 kind of tie for me because they both I both like them equally, but on different levels for different reasons.
Okay.
Then I would say 3 because I thought it was, quite frankly, I thought it was the best casting in the history of forever to have at the time Jim Carrey play the Riddler. I mean,
right.
he just screams Edward Nygma.
Right. I think the original producers would have liked to have Robin Williams at the time, but
Yeah.
I think there was issues there.
Probably. I think there was a scheduling issue or something.
Something like that.
But I mean, you look at it and he just, you're just like, yeah, he's the Riddler. And I when I seen that, I was like, it's almost too perfect.
Right.
He's goofy, he's zany, and, he kind of at the time he kind of gave off that Frank Gorshin version from the '60s. It's kind of
right, and he was skinny like the Riddler is.
Yeah.
In the comics, so
yeah.
Although I think I read somewhere where he actually lost a little weight,
probably
to make himself look more
more gaunt for the role. The only thing I really wish they would have done for Batman Forever in that sense is I wish they would have figured out a way to bring back Billy D. Williams to play Two-Face, because he played Harvey Dent in the first movie.
Right. It would have been consistent.
Yeah, it would have been consistent. Would have been perfect. Quite frankly, I mean, I'm not going to say that. I don't know how they actually would have turned out, but I think it would have. I think people would have respected the movie a little bit more, saying, "Okay, we're sticking with this," and maybe if they would have made Two-Face a little darker.
Right.
Because I don't know, that whole dichotomy of everything you see around him, it was too loud and too crazy.
Right.
That being said, it was still better than Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze in
right.
Batman and Robin.
Now, my listing of movies
and the bastardization that was Bane.
Right.
I hate that version.
Well, yeah, I've got a thing about Bane, but we'll get that here in a minute. Because my ranking of the first 4 movies would be the first Batman movie.
Uh-huh.
And then I'd have to put 3.
Really? You like 3 better than 2?
And then put 2. And then go with 4.
Now, why do you like 3 better than 2?
I guess because I don't know. There's something about it's not that it's necessarily
it's the car, right?
It's
Dude's
not
dick the car.
No, it's not necessarily that 2's bad.
No,
it's just something to me. Every time you saw Michael, you didn't see enough of Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, which bugged me.
Right.
And it was just every time they focused a lot on the Penguin, which is fine to a point.
Yeah.
But it seemed like every time you turn around, all of a sudden something's going on, and just Batman just pops in.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it's like, I want to see Bruce Wayne figuring out what the hell the Penguin's doing,
right?
And be more, more like he was with the first one, the Joker, being more intuitive and
more
trying to figure out what this guy's up to,
right?
Instead of just all of a sudden, somehow he figures out he's doing something wrong and he just shows up.
Right.
And so that's that part of that movie.
You wanted to see a more proactive Bruce Wayne
Batman,
and a less reactive Batman.
Right. It's not to say that 2's bad. Right. It's just for that small instance, I'd have to put 2 under 3. Now, I don't really care for Schumacher as a director, but the fact he wasn't given full reins of the movie, and Tim Burton was the executive producer, at least of the third one. There was still he didn't have full control over the movie.
Right.
So, yeah, he got to lighten it up, put in some colors like he wanted, but 3 was still, even though Schumacher technically still directed it, it was still a decent Batman movie.
Right.
And I think that's where Warner Bros. Went to fault when they gave him and let him gave him full control on the fourth one.
Right.
Is then he got to basically turn it into what he wanted it in the first place.
Right.
Crap.
Basically, yeah.
And
nobody wanted to see that.
Crap. I mean, and I know Clooney was on the Tonight Show or something like that and basically admitted at one time, well, I killed the Batman franchise.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, Clooney didn't necessarily kill the Batman franchise.
The only thing Clooney should have put his hand. He should have, you know,
because of the first 4 movies, you've made mention this to me before. He had the best look as far as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he was a very good Bruce. I thought he was the better Bruce Wayne of the bunch.
Right. He had the best look for Bruce Wayne, but then again, anything Clooney does, he gives.
Yeah.
You know, he makes it look good. He had the best look of Bruce Wayne. Batman and Robin failed in A, the script, in my opinion.
Yeah.
B, Schumacher, right there, and C, they made Bane and Mr. Freeze total just.
Yeah.
It was just too 60-ish.
Yeah.
And it just. That's the first of the 4 Batman movies that when I saw in the theater, I felt cheated.
Yeah. I can see that. I didn't even go see the 4th one in the theater.
I mean,
I'd seen the first 3. Well, no, I'd seen 2 and 3. And
it's not even nothing. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger could have made an excellent Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
In the right circumstances with the right script, if it had been in more of the darker tone of the first and second one, I think Schwarzenegger would have made a badass Mr. Freeze if done right. But they made him too. With that one scene,
too many puns.
With that one scene in there, he's trying to sing, getting his cronies to sing with him, and he's in bunny slippers and sitting there, or polar bear slippers, or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah,
it's just too cheesy.
There was a lot to be desired about the 4th one, in terms of like the whole issue with Batgirl being Alfred's niece.
Yeah, no.
Is that right? Niece,
grandniece,
something
niece,
like
that. Yeah, she was related to Alfred in some way as
opposed to being
Gordon's daughter. Which, okay, I guess it worked. It was all right, but there's so many wrongs with that movie that shouldn't even be classified a Batman movie in my book.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of bad Batman movies, though. Okay.
Because after you get done with this, I want to move on to the Nolan series here.
Okay, well that's fine. There's some good tidbits here. So we all kind of agree that Batman and Robin essentially sucked. But did you know if it hadn't bombed, they were ready to go with a 5th one?
Okay. Called
Batman Triumphant. It would have been in '99. And Clooney would have been back as Batman, which I don't,
That's assuming they could have gotten him to come back.
Well, I think they probably had it set. Well, I mean, when you sign a movie contract, you usually sign up for a few movies at a time,
right?
X amount of projects with said company to do whatever. But here's where it gets even weirder.
Well, I do know, and I'm sorry to interrupt you here,
That's
but
right.
I do know I did read where Schumacher went to Warner Brothers a year or two after Batman and Robin failed and came with a darker script, wanting to do another Batman movie to redeem himself, because I guess after a couple years, year or two after, knowing that it got such bad press, bad reviews, and the movie bombed so bad that he wanted to redeem himself to the Batman fans.
Right.
But Warner Brothers decided not to go with him, and eventually they ended up going with... eventually went to Nolan and his...
And that's fine.
Yes.
So, but can you imagine, and this will tie into our eventual transition into the Nolan series because of who the villains were supposed to be for this so-called 5th Batman movie that would have came out in '99. Can you believe Nicolas Cage as the Scarecrow?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's not necessarily completely unbelievable.
Can you believe Madonna as Harley Quinn?
Possibly.
In '99, yes, I can see.
With the outfit she wears and still wears, I could.
The problem is, and this is not a knock on Madonna because she's always in excellent shape, is that you need a 20-something.
Right.
You need a 20-something girl to play Harley Quinn.
And you need someone, to me, for the way they draw them in the comics. And granted, they draw all females like this in the comics, but you almost needed something a little bit more. What's the PC way of being able to put this?
Voluptuous.
Yes.
Curvy,
voluptuous.
Yeah.
You need someone with.
But you know what though? in the movies that doesn't necessarily transition well to having that curvy. What you really need is somebody who's Jersey.
Right.
That's what you really need. You really need somebody who's just and this is not a knock on anybody from New Jersey that's listening to this, but you know what I'm talking about. That kind of that real Jersey Shore kind of accent well before the show ever came out.
Right.
But then you remember a TV show called Perfect Strangers?
Yes, Balky.
The other guy.
The
other guy that wasn't Balky.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
He was supposed to play Man-Bat.
Man-Bat. I don't know if I've heard of that.
He's kind of like this alternate. It's hard to explain. We don't got time to go into Man-Bat.
Yeah,
but he would have been a third villain for the movie. 3
villains. That would have been pushing.
Yeah.
It.
Well, and they've they did 3 villains with the fourth one essentially.
True.
But yeah, so. Yeah, that could have happened. just so you know, that could have happened. And yeah, so I think, but Nicolas Cage's Scarecrow, I think that's a wonderful tie-in to Batman Begins, because that was one of the primary villains for Batman Begins was Scarecrow.
Right, Crane. Yeah. Batman Begins. It started this whole. I really think set the tone for.
I believe I was in Iraq when that movie came out. Wasn't that?
Oh, I know where I was.
That was 2005, right?
Yes, 2005.
Yeah, I was in Iraq when that came out. 2005.
It had a budget of $150 million, and it took in $374 million worldwide.
Yeah, it was, and quite frankly, it was probably the perfect Batman movie to do at the time, because it was the freshest idea I think anybody's had.
It was an origin story, and there was when someone asked in an interview when Batman Begins came out, asked Michael Keaton what he thought if he'd seen Batman Begins, and he said he saw it, he loved it, he thought what they did was great. He said he'd have been willing to come back for a third one, but he was wanting to come back. He was wanting to go back and do an origin story set before the first one.
Yeah.
And that's the only way he was willing to come back, and he wished they had done an origin story with Bruce Wayne to begin with in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing with what people want to see today. People want to see
how these guys get to the point
where they get to the point.
Yeah, why are they putting their bodies on the line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, and this is slightly off subject, which is why I really liked, and I know you may catch flack for this, so I apologize in advance. That's why I really liked the A-Team movie, because you never really got an origin story for that.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was great. And problem is, you'll probably never see a sequel to it.
Yeah.
And I thought that movie was great. I thought the casting of it, at first, I was a little questionable of Hannibal.
Yeah.
But after 10 minutes into the movie,
you bought it.
I was like, okay, I buy him as Hannibal. Forgive me, his name eludes me right now. The actor, I don't know why, but
that's funny because he trained Batman.
Yes, I know he was Raj Al Ghul. I don't know why his name eludes me right now.
And he was Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes, Liam.
Come on, man.
I know.
He's the baddest man alive. He's the leader of the A-Team. He trained Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, I should be sending myself to my room right now.
You should, this. Without supper, without a drink, without anything.
Without my PS3 or my Blu-ray player.
Yeah, 100 lashes.
But yeah, 10 minutes into the A-Team, I bought it.
Liam effing Neeson, man.
And I thought the guy who played Face, another name is eluding me right now for whatever stupid.
Played who?
Face.
Oh, on the A-Team.
Yes, on the A-Team.
Bradley Cooper.
Right. I'd love to see but that movie did all right, but I don't think it did good enough for them to.
I don't think so either.
Did it good enough for them to warrant a sequel? I would love to see one.
It might warrant a made-to-video sequel, which will make me really cringe, but
because they won't have the same actors.
Yeah.
No way.
Like I said, I know that was off topic, but I really enjoy a good origin story, and I think everybody really enjoys a good origin story because it sets it up, especially if you want to do a franchise. You have to have some. You just can't go into it anymore and be like,
and that's,
we're doing this. And this is why we're doing. We don't know why we're doing it, but this is what they're doing.
Well, I think that's the reason why the Nolan series works so well.
Yeah.
You have a beginning with Batman Begins.
Uh-huh.
You've got the middle of Batman being trusted by Gordon, being almost taken seriously by the public.
Yeah.
They're trusting him to clean up the streets.
Right.
Get rid of the Joker. And then you have the end of, quote, Batman in a certain sense with Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
so you got this whole roundup of a guy who wants to do right by his city, becomes a vigilante, spends his own money using his own corporation to secretly finance it with a guy who he points head of his corporation to help him out.
Yeah.
And that series just worked because you had Ra's al Ghul and Crane, and when I first saw Batman Begins, I didn't expect Liam Neeson to turn up as actually Ra's al Ghul because you figured you bought the begin.
I knew exactly who he was supposed to be when I seen it. I was like, oh, check it out, it's Ra's al Ghul. People were like, who? I'm like, you guys are suckers. You don't even deserve to watch this movie.
Because when I saw the movie, I actually bought into the one guy that I thought was Ra's al Ghul.
Oh,
so I bought into it.
Okay, so you thought, okay, when they burned down the
right and temple. Temple,
Okay.
I actually thought
that
right.
Asian dude was Ra's al Ghul.
Right.
Okay.
So I thought when he pulled Liam Neeson's character out of there and left him with the one guy, going back down the mountain.
Yeah.
I figured, okay, you won't see him again. Well, when you saw him then in Wayne Manor at the quote birthday celebration.
Yeah.
And that older lady says, I want you to meet Ra's al Ghul, and turns around, there's Liam Neeson. I'm thinking, shit, I didn't see that coming. Excuse me. But anyway, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And that whole series just worked.
Right.
Now, something I want to make mention with the Nolan series between Alfred and Bane.
Okay.
Okay. I know it sounds weird. I think of the two Alfreds between the first four movies and then Michael Caine's version of Alfred in Nolan series. I think Michael Caine's version of Alfred was probably the more realistic version of whatever, but the guy they used in the first four to play had the more Alfred look in a certain sense. He had the look of Alfred to me more so than what Michael Caine did, but Michael Caine's version of Alfred I think was played out a lot better.
Right. I'll buy that.
And now, same thing goes for Bane. I think Bane's look in Batman and Robin was more what the comics were.
Yeah.
But Tom Hardy's version of Bane was a more accurate portrayal as far as his brains personality.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem I had with Bane from Batman and Robin. Is just like this mindless aberration. I was like, really?
A brooding grunt that was just no more than a lackey to Poison Ivy.
Yeah, he's just a heavy for Poison Ivy. Do the heavy lifting, exactly.
Right.
Whereas, he's like, oh, okay. You watch Dark Knight Rises and you're like, oh, there's a real character in there.
Right.
And that's why I really...
So that's why I made those. That's why I made those comparisons to those two characters because
a bastard movie.
Because both, I kind of look at it as two different series with the first four and Nolan series, and there's certain parts where the first four kind of got it right, and then there's other parts where Nolan has it right as well,
right.
Although I think Nolan series is probably more right all the way around.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily so much about being right, but being grounded, knowing its audience. I think it knows its audience better.
Now, I may get flack for this.
Okay.
And I've asked my wife this before.
Okay.
And now she likes The Dark Knight. Because she loves Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker.
Oh, okay.
She thought he played him so well. In that dark, deep, brooding place, or wherever it is he had to grow up to come to be in that state.
Right.
She loves him better than Jack Nicholson's version, which I would agree. I think he played the better Joker.
Okay.
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 Would Heath Ledger had won the Oscar for that role if he had not died? With no disrespect intended to him or his family, would he have still won if he had not died? Would he still even been nominated?
Nominated, yes. I'm not so sure he would have won. I think he would have been nominated. I really do think he would have been nominated because it was a very powerful portrayal of a very sadistic being.
Right.
Winning, I'm not so sure. I think his death was. I'm not going to lie. I think he probably got a couple of sympathy votes in there for it.
I think his death, got him the win.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And as I said, no disrespect to him or his family. It's just, I always wondered that if he hadn't have died, or at least not died till I shouldn't go there. But anyway, I just kind of always wondered if he'd actually would have still won the Oscar if he had not have.
He
died.
has a second part in that movie, right?
He does?
Yeah, he has a small. If you go back to the where Bruce and the little ballerina are having dinner with Harvey Dent and
Okay.
what's her face?
Okay, I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, he has a quick cameo as himself in
In the background?
Yeah,
I'll have to watch that and check that out.
it's kind of neat.
Okay.
I
Did you
like-
know
I
that
love
on
the
your
stone
own?
look, I love the stone look on your face. You're like, huh? Really? What?
Did you know that on your own, or did you read that somewhere?
Actually, I found that on somewhere. What was it, a couple weeks ago? I think. I was just like, oh, well, looky there. Well, that's not the first time I've seen that done though. You can see that in Scream 2, and I have seen that before, where Matthew Lillard, who was the killer in the first one,
I believe,
shows up at the party.
I believe you said something about that with the Predator movie too. The guy who plays Predators in
The guy who actually plays the Predator
is piloting the chopper.
Is the pilot of the chopper at the end of the movie.
Or at the beginning of the movie, I thought you said.
No, it's the end of the movie.
End of the movie?
Yeah.
I thought you said the beginning.
No, it's the end.
Okay.
It's the big dude at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, that happened.
Now, I want to go touch the thing on Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
On Dark Knight Rises, at the end, well, actually, towards the beginning of the movie, where Alfred makes that kind of touching speech to Bruce Wayne about, he's referring back to Batman Begins, where the 7 years where he thought he was dead, and you see that he talks about going to this place in France or wherever it was, and having dinner and hoping he would see, just to get that nod or whatever,
to know that he's okay.
Know that he's okay or whatever. And in a certain sense, though, he still kind of, I think he said he wished he had stayed dead or something like that. At the end of Dark Knight Rises, after everyone assumes Batman is dead, Batman / Bruce Wayne is dead.
Right.
And then you go through that whole sequence there at the end where they're trying to wrap everything up. You see where, Blake is Robin and all that good stuff. That scene where they show Alfred there again at that restaurant, and they show you a quick glimpse of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle.
Right.
You think that was actually him seeing them, or was that just in his imagination?
I think you really seen him. I think you really did see him, and I think it was we're going to close the door on these movies, but we're not going to lock it.
I think. And after,
just in case we want to bring a U-Haul truck full of money back to Christian Bale's doorstep and say, "We need you, buddy."
Right.
Suit up.
Right. and I've asked you that before, but to me, I'd have to agree he probably really did see him, because why would you, if Alfred really didn't see him, there's no point in having the scene with Fox asking his technicians about the autopilot on the Batplane.
Right.
And they said, well, it was corrected 6 months ago by Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Because if Alfred, to me, didn't really see him, because
the only way I think that Alfred didn't really see him is if Selena Kyle wasn't in the shot. If Selena wasn't there,
then it would have been a possibility of just his imagination.
Yeah, his imagination. But because you see Selena there, that's why I'm more inclined to believe that he really does see Bruce there.
Because what I was getting at is there's no sense in putting that scene with Mr. Fox in there if he's not really there that Alfred sees.
Right.
Because if Alfred doesn't really see him, then there's no sense of having that short little scene of Fox trying to clear his conscience.
Right. Exactly.
There's no point in that scene.
Exactly. They're real. I mean, yeah.
So I think that was the writer's way of letting everyone off the hook of he's not really dead.
Right.
You can take down the hankies now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when I seen the movie. I was like, no, Bruce didn't die. I knew immediately that Bruce didn't die. I was like, no, they the way the movie was, and I hate to say this because I like the movie. Some of it was entirely too predictable. There was too many spots in that movie that I was like, this is too predictable for what it was.
They did a lot of
Dark Knight did not. I'm not going to say it left me on edge, guessing what was going to happen next. But anything that they did was, it wasn't blatantly predictable, such as the scene in Dark Knight Rises, where you have Bruce trying to get out of the well or out of the hole in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I said, as I'm watching this, I said, there's no way he gets out of this with that rope attached to his waist. It's just too predictable. And the second he figures out that he needs to take the rope off, it's the second he makes it. And I was like, oh, man, really? That's kind of lame. I mean, there was like I said, there were some plot letdown points in that movie, and that was kind of one of the big ones. It's like, could you have found a better way to have written that? And like I said, when you see the bat, as it's called, take off with that explosive, I was like, no, he didn't die. He didn't die. He may have blew up, but
now between all 7 movies out there,
yeah,
what villain's the only one to make an appearance in 3 movies? The same guy playing
Scarecrow.
Yeah, Scarecrow.
Yeah. Speaking of villains, we should really delve into that just a few minutes if you got it.
Yeah, we got a few minutes here.
Because I know we've only seen the same villain, or we've only seen 2 villains show up in both sets of movies, if you will.
Joker and Bane.
Okay, and Catwoman.
Okay, 3 then.
I wasn't really thinking of Bane because I don't really count that Bane because that Bane is just kind of a
but still
it's almost a heavy extra.
Right, but technically he was there. So
okay,
3.
All right, so there's 3, but I still really can't count that. I'm sorry, I can't do it. We both kind of. I know you much rather prefer the you prefer the Heath Ledger version of the Joker over Jack Nicholson's.
To a point.
Okay. Let me ask you this: Michelle Pfeiffer or Anne Hathaway?
Now, if you want to go as far as strictly looks,
No. I mean the actual, just the whole ball of wax, man.
I'd almost have to say, my gut wants to say, I would buy Anne Hathaway's version better.
Okay.
It's just, to me, there was too many, as you would say, cliches.
And notice how I don't use Halle Berry.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a whole nother movie,
Yeah,
but
I know, I'm just throwing that out there.
There's too many I want to say too many little cliches in that movie, as far as Catwoman. I mean, following in a thing of cat litter.
Well, yeah.
There's just too many. Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer's got the looks, probably better look in an actual quote cat suit if you want to put the two comparison in a suit. But I think Anne Hathaway is probably the more believable version.
Okay.
For what she is.
Yeah, and for what the character's supposed to be, I think I might agree with you on that because Catwoman is essentially supposed to be a cat burglar.
Right.
A really good one.
Right. So I'd almost have to say, that's a more believable Catwoman than probably anyone's been out there.
Okay. And you don't think she was too skinny? I remember that was that was the big deal. Everybody's like, oh man, she needs to put on some weight.
No.
In the end, I thought she looked really good.
No, I think she was fine. I think some people questioned it at the beginning. Why are you putting her as Catwoman?
Oh yeah. Oh man, I remember. You remember? I don't know if you remember this, but right before the movie came out, there were some stills of her with those goggles, and man, did they tear her apart for that? They're like, why has Catwoman got goggles on?
Well, there's also that was kind of twofold. That was twofold because if you notice when she would put them up on the top of her head, it gave her a profile, her head like a cat.
Yeah.
So I could see where. I think you could pick apart anything. You could probably pick apart stuff out of the Nolan series just as much as you could pick apart stuff from the first 4.
I just thought that was a really trivial thing to pull apart.
Right. I think. Well,
because you wanted her to be a cat burglar,
right?
And she had everything that they gave her the, for all intents and purposes, a cat burglar feel.
Right. Now,
not some weird super criminal that has cat-like powers.
There was one thing I never really thought of after seeing The Dark Knight Rises. There's one thing, and I didn't really think about it till after I read a critic's review of The Dark Knight Rises that I found on the internet. And the critics basically the only really beef he had with The Dark Knight Rises was how, even though Bruce Wayne held himself up for 8 years basically as a, secluded in his mansion, not really being seen in public hardly ever at all, supposedly after and then The Dark Knight.
Right.
How does a guy who's worth so much and has a business and someone like Mr. Fox how do they let his business get to that point of him losing it?
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's the real big thing that one critic, and
I guess I get that.
You know,
But when you get down to it, people who go to see that movie, they don't really. I don't think they really care.
Right. I mean, for the storyline, it makes sense, I guess. But if you start thinking about it after I read it, it's like, that kind of does make sense. Why would someone of Bruce Wayne's intelligence and the intelligence of Mr. Fox, who's supposedly been left as the day-to-day running his company, Wayne Enterprises, how do you not know his company is taking a nosedive quickly for no reason at all?
Right.
I mean, because why would you let anyone else in charge of Wayne Enterprises, considering anyone who would be put in charge could probably easily figure out what's going on as with Wayne as Batman?
Right.
Because there are going to be certain things you're not going to be able to sit there and explain away with Mr. Fox's Applied Sciences division.
Yeah, you have to wonder, why didn't a company like the SEC come down on them? Where's all this money going to that you're spending a ton of money on stuff and you're not really seeing anything?
Right.
You can just see Security and Exchange really going after them, and a lot of government agencies wondering, hey, are you, who's embezzling what and where's this money going to?
Right. So, I mean, but there's minor little things.
Right. I mean, if you really wanted to be nitpicky, I guess if this really happened in real life, Bruce Wayne probably doesn't get away with going through that kind of cash for those kinds of projects that he does to have for, said equipment.
Right. It's just those little things, and some things you don't really think of until after you've read what someone else has written about it.
Well, it's all about perspective. I mean, that's like I said, I never really gave that much thought. Like I said, my biggest thought was that there was some predictable plot points in the movie. Mm-hmm. Much like when, what's her name? Talia, is that right? The girl that he signs everything over to run the company.
Oh, which turns out to be Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
But I'm pretty sure, isn't her name Talia?
I think so. I don't remember.
And, when I heard her name was Talia, and I seen that cut on her arm, in the pseudo bed scene or in front of that with fireplace.
With Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, is she really Talia al Ghul? Which is a character. She's shown up before, as Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
Right. Now, the movie never really says, and Dark Knight Rises never really says, and you wouldn't expect him to say anything about the Joker.
Right.
Okay, but according to, I guess, the novel in Dark Knight Rises, there's...
Wait. Define novel, like a novelization of the movie?
Yes, novelization of the movie.
Okay.
Yes, supposedly there is a mention about the Joker in the book.
Okay.
Supposedly. And it says that he... there's some sort of conversation that happens, I'm not sure with who.
Uh-huh.
But you find out that the newly rebuilt Arkham Asylum is now the new home of the Joker.
Right.
And he's been confined to solitary confinement.
Uh-huh.
And his biggest gripe in there is because he has no one to play with.
That makes perfect sense. That would have set up really good for Harley Quinn.
Right. A fifth one.
Yeah. Would have set up
fourth one.
Fourth one, yeah. Would have set up really good for a Harley Quinn because that's what Harley Quinn was before.
And it's probably a good thing they didn't want to try and do a fourth movie.
Yeah.
Because with Heath Ledger dying, if you did somehow wanted to bring the Joker back, recasting that, no one would buy it, first off, and everyone would have an issue with it. How dare you do so after Heath Ledger playing it?
Right.
I think it would have had so many issues, and there have been so many, quote, I think, backlash against it, that it's probably good it did end at 3 movies.
Yeah, although I could have seen the whole movie being a fourth one. If they wanted to do a fourth one, I think if they would have done a fourth one where they could have had Harley as the primary villain, if you will, or not even a primary villain, but if you would have had her as a sub villain, like maybe you see like maybe Batman battles some of the lesser known ones. Maybe you get like two villains in the movie at one time,
Right.
not necessarily teaming up together, but let's say like Batman fights Clayface, and I don't know, give me somebody that's kind of a
Well, there's some people out there would love to see the Croc.
Yeah, or Killer Croc. Yeah,
Killer Croc, or there's
Okay, well, I want to say, let's say Clayface, because Clayface is kind of a mental case in and of himself because of his issues. But you can see them having Clayface delivered to Arkham Asylum. You could have incorporated Harley into the being, because she was a psychiatrist before the Joker gassed her.
Right.
You could have had Batman even just kind of roaming Arkham Asylum at night and checking on the Joker. And you wouldn't have actually had to see a face or anything like that, but maybe just kind of a silhouette.
Right.
Something to say, hey, Heath may be gone, but the character's still there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it seems kind of trivial, but if you were to done a fourth and maybe a fifth one where you had Harley maybe breaking the Joker out at the end of the fourth one,
right?
You had this thing, the Heath Ledger's, how I got these scars routine,
right?
Maybe he mangled his face in the process, so you could have been a little more believable, to the point of you have somebody playing the Joker. And you're not trying to do too much like Heath Ledger, but maybe just think of it as this guy's just trying to do his due diligence to not ruin the character for him.
Right.
I think you can redo it. I think you can do it and be respectful. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, I know we mentioned off the top of the show here that the next Superman movie is going to have Batman in it as well.
Yep.
Okay. Besides that.
Real
quickly here, because we need to kind of start wrapping it up.
Okay.
Do you think Warner Brothers will try and put out a separate Batman movie by themselves within the next 5 years?
Well, I got to say no. As much as I think Warner Brothers would love to figure out a way to
do another Batman
Batman movie, I can't see them doing it until
at least after
the supposed Justice League movie in 2017.
Assuming that stays intact.
Yeah, so assuming everything goes as planned, which is Batman, Superman in 2015, you get The Flash in 2016, Justice League in 2017. I can't see them doing one until 2018. I really can't. That's just how I can't imagine them doing another Batman movie until after the first Justice League movie.
Do they use the same guy they used for Batman for the second Superman in Justice League, or do they go completely different route?
I think it probably depends on how whoever they cast for Batman for 2015, how he's received and if he's believable enough and young enough to continue to be able to do these movies for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because these three Nolan movies, they took from 04 to
05, 2005.
Well, I'm talking principal filming.
Oh, principal filming, yes.
Principal filming of 04 through the last year
into 2011 somewhere.
Yeah, into 2011, beginning of 2012. Yeah, depending on reshoots and whatever special effects shots you need to get for that. That's almost 10 years, for those three movies. And you have to think, is this guy going to be young enough to continue to do that?
Right.
And be able to keep up with the grueling pace. And will he be believable on screen? Will he not look ridiculously young or ridiculously old by the time they get to whatever movie they got planned for it?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
Well, one way or the other, Batman won't be going away anytime soon.
No.
Batman. Chris Nolan has shown, and even in the first four movies, shown with the right cast, the right script, the right look, Batman can succeed at the theater.
Well, yeah, and all you have to do is just make sure you identify with the audience that's going to see it.
Right. And I think even the next Batman movie is going to be taking the Chris Nolan series as a kind of a Bible. Ground him, realistic. Don't get cheesy because people aren't going to buy the cheese.
Yeah, and they've already had before they announced it today that there was going to be a Batman Superman movie. They had already done a wink and a nod in Man of Steel to him anyway. One of the satellites that gets destroyed in the movie is a Wayne Enterprises satellite.
Right.
And so I don't see why there can't be. Something to that effect of when they do this new movie that. I have no idea where I'm going with this. I'm just kind of rambling.
Okay.
Maybe we should call it.
Well, we probably didn't get as in depth as we could have, but then again, we've been
how
here
much
for
in depth do you want to get?
Well, we've already been for an hour and 5 minutes.
That's pretty in depth.
Yes. We could probably go on for another hour if we really wanted to get into the nuts and bolts of all those movies, but that would get tedious.
Okay. Well, let's end it on this then. We know that the next Batman movie will be Batman and Superman.
Right.
Now they're saying if it's Batman versus Superman, obviously that won't stay that way for very long. It may be an initial confrontation kind of thing.
But there's going to be some villain in there that's going to bring them together.
Now, if do you think that will be Lex?
I don't know.
If it had to be one, Lex is the one that's got to be because Lex is the one with all the money.
That depends. I mean, being that it is a quote probably be more of a Superman movie than it will be a Batman movie.
Right.
You would have to assume it's going to be the character they're going to end up going after villain wise would have to be Lex Luthor, unless Warner Brothers is saving Lex for a third Superman movie by himself, where they just want to deal with that.
Well, like I said, I've
always
thought Lex was the better puppet master than he was the villain at the head of the fight.
Right.
He should always be the one that's pulling the strings and making other people do his bidding.
If it's not Lex per se with an actual character, they're going to do a pseudo where at the end of the movie you're going to find out whoever villain those two are taking on. You're going to find at the very end
Lex is the one pulling the strings.
Lex is pulling the strings, which is going to probably set up the third Superman movie with Henry Cavill, I would assume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that would be the entire plot for the third movie.
Yeah.
That's which could be enough because I mean Lex has been done how many times in some of these Superman movies now? Quite a few.
He's been the
go-to guy.
The primary villain in 1, 2, 4 and Superman Returns.
Right. So my guess is you probably won't see Lex, I wouldn't say, until the third.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
I would. There's other characters I'd like to see. And when I say other characters, I do not mean Brainiac, and I do not mean Doomsday.
Well, at one time there was rumor of Patrick Stewart doing Brainiac. Yeah, there was a rumor.
I could see that.
There was a rumor at one time.
If I'm going to have somebody bald play Brainiac, you know who I'd rather have? Woody Harrelson. I got 3 words for you: natural born killers. That's all you need to know.
Anyway, well, this does conclude. I think
it does.
I think we'll conclude it for this podcast of being about Batman. Although we did stray.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we strayed about was
all DC
pseudo on topic,
DC related.
Yeah, except for the A-Team.
Yes, except for the A-Team. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Not a problem. I'm Steve the Specialist. Hope you've enjoyed our take on all things Batman.
And I'm Reggie.
Most things Batman.
Yeah.
Some things Batman.
I'm Reggie. Podcast number 3 will be forthcoming, hopefully sooner than podcast number 2 did.
All right.
I can guarantee you that. And thanks for everyone out there listening, and we'll talk at you later.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.